this panel today. My name is Victoria Trusty. I am the Senior Account Manager at Canna Advisors, and I'll get more into my background a little bit later on. But right now I want to introduce this panel and also my great panelists that I have up here, and just kind of touch on what we're going to speak about today. So everyone here has had a shopping experience that you remember that was a great experience. Maybe it was someone who was helpful in finding that product that was perfect for you in their line of products. Maybe it was just someone being nice to you when you were trying to return a product rather than ridiculing you for bringing it back. Then we all have that other sort of experience that we remember that was not such a great customer experience. We also remember how that affected our outlook on the brand or the product that we were trying to purchase. So maybe, just maybe, if someone had gone above and beyond to help you in the question that you may have had, or listened to you when you had a complaint about their product, you would still be using that product or shopping for that brand. In this panel, we're going to discuss strategies to help mold that customer experience to make sure that your people keep coming back to you, and then it's bringing in new business for you, building your business along the way. And with that being said, I am going to pass the floor over to my brilliant group of panelists over here to give you insight into each of their backgrounds. Ms. Virginia, if you don't mind starting? Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Virginia Lee. I'm the CBD Research Manager for Brightfield Group. Brightfield Group is the leading market research firm focused on the CBD and cannabis industries. I have over 15 years of market research experience researching and writing about beauty and personal care, foods, drinks, and health and wellness, and I'm excited to be on the panel.
Hi guys, I'm Ken Krell. I'm the founder and chief enthusiast at Total Wealth Strategies. You should have some of these on some of the chairs that may be around. Our objective is to help people keep their income and not send it to the IRS so you can fund your life and fund your business. Does anybody like paying taxes? Does anybody rather keep their tax dollars? Say yes, right? That's what we do, and we help also keep you impenetrable from lawsuits, because all of you at some point in time are going to be sued. Congratulations. Welcome to business. Yes. If you haven't been sued yet, you will be, I promise. Not by me. So we'll help you, protect you from that as well. For years and years, I've run mortgage banking firms. I've owned software companies. And so for me, the user experience and the feeling you get from doing business with the company you're doing business with is ultra important. So we'll talk a bunch about that today. Thrilled to be here.
Hi, my name is Ella Cressman. Can you guys hear me in the back? Give me big ups in the back. All right, thank you. We're going to share. So my name is Ella Cressman. I'm a licensed esthetician, and I'm the founder of the consulting firm HHP Collective. I have been in skincare. I started my business right before the economic crash of 2008, so quickly learned that the customer experience was key, and how to navigate that in a market and how to design desirable services, and through that started consulting for skincare companies. I began my work in CBD in 2014, which in this industry was the dawning of time. And so I've seen quite the evolution of product offerings, product formulations, and also the evolution of the consumer, which has been very, very big changes, especially in the last 10 months. So that's the experience I bring.
Hi, my name is Joshua Bernard. I'm the founder of Green Diamond Consulting. We are a customer experience strategy and training company. So we work with companies to focus them on their customer strategy, figure out what that means, and then actually train their people directly on the kind of interactions that were mentioned in retail spheres and also over the phone, through communication, any place where there's a touch point essentially between the customer and your brand.
And
Happy to be here.
Clarity,
Thank you.
Stephen actually was not able to make it, and so Joshua is taking his place in the panel today.
Yeah, Stephen, I was going to say, I've been putting this CBD oil on my head since I got here, but yeah, Stephen couldn't make his flight from Dallas, so I'm going to be taking his place. Thanks.
Cool, I'm just going to speak super loudly so I don't have to lean forward into this mic. My name is Skylar Bissell. I'm the co-founder of Oleo. We make CBD products for people living active lifestyles. We developed a technology that allows for microencapsulation, which means water solubility and more absorption in your body. Prior to that, I worked at Amazon, Boeing, and a couple other startups in Seattle, and really just focused on branding and marketing in my career. So really trying to connect people with other people and really respect everyone's choices and provide the best products possible.
Well, thank you all so much for giving insight into your backgrounds. I knew they could tell more about themselves in a better manner than I could, but again, my name is Victoria Trusty. I am the Senior Account Manager for a consulting firm called Canna Advisors. We help people apply for competitive licensing in the cannabis and hemp market. Excuse me. We also help with a different array of business documents such as business plans, financial modeling, pitch decks. Thank you. Sure, will do. Got there awkwardly. Yeah, so we just help people build their businesses from the ground up. We also help with startup services after they win their licensing. I am the senior account manager, so I touch base with every one of my clients, every one of the clients for Canna Advisors, just to make sure that they are getting the customer experience that they want out of this engagement, since they are paying us a lot of money to help them build a business from the ground up. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I'm just going to get started with throwing some questions at you guys, if that's okay.
Please.
Yeah? Gotta be ready. All right. So Skylar, I'm actually going to start off with you.
Sure.
How can a company stay innovative in a saturated market to attract new customers and keep reoccurring customers interested in the products?
So I think for us that was about primarily finding a form factor that was distinct, and it's not always easy because there is a lot of pull to do what is already being done. Those products are selling great, and in this market that means tinctures and gel caps primarily. So from the beginning we focused on powders, and particularly water-soluble powders as a form factor for our products, and that's really the basis, I think, of finding something that's unique to people, which then automatically sets yourself apart. I think the other component for us was making sure that the products and the form factor were designed to fit a particular niche, a use case that the consumer had, and that made sense for us to then base it around fitness, since we ourselves were looking to partake in CBD during our workday afterwards and didn't want to be intoxicated. So we chose a THC-free product and something that could fit into a shaker bottle, a smoothie, or your coffee in the morning really easily. So that's kind of how we approached it, was trying to find a unique form factor, and from there fitting that form factor into a demographic.
Great. Does anyone have anything else to expand on that? Any other ways that your company or you tell companies to stay innovative?
I would say defining the target market is key. And you saw Skylar did that. He defined his target market was active people, and a product that was unique in that you could take it on the road, in either at work or at the gym. And so that's key. And I had a conversation with one of my potential clients about that too. Close your eyes and imagine who is using your product. And then in defining that, the rest, it really helps navigate the marketing or the development, and having that definition. Your product's not going to be for everyone, but defining who it is for will set your sights that way, but also get a few residuals along the way too.
Would you say that there's anything in particular that you do or you would recommend companies do to make sure that your recurring customers are happy with the products and getting feedback from them in any form or fashion?
Oh yeah, gamify, absolutely gamify. If you can buy something and then have them become a part of a Facebook group so that they're in a community, they feel like they're belonging. If you give them contests for how they can use it, new innovative ways to do that. If you can give them incentives to refer their friends, and maybe you get a 20% off coupon for referring a friend or two. There's all sorts of ways to get them involved. You want to make them, you don't want this to be transactional, you want this to be relationship oriented. So I invite you to take a look at structuring it that way so that they become part of something bigger than themselves.
Great. Very nice. So, Virginia, what do you think are some good ways to combat a bad customer experience?
I think some ways to combat a bad customer experience is, offering a sincere apology. with CBD in particular, given that not everyone nationwide has access at a brick and mortar store to CBD, a high percentage of CBD sales is going through online. So, I mean, that can mean that customers may have a negative experience, even if it's not related to, but if UPS or FedEx. So I think it's just, if someone posts a negative review on your website or Facebook or Twitter, I would say offering a sincere apology, and ideally doing it within 24 business hours, but I know some of the companies here are small, so ideally within 48 hours. And also, in terms of negative customer reviews, not just CBD, but all products, if you have a website that allows customer reviews, don't take down the negative ones, because people today, they're very interested in learning about your company, and they're seeking transparency, that the company they're buying from is trustworthy. And if you keep your negative reviews online, people are going to trust that the great reviews of your product are real.
That's a good point. And sometimes you'll see negative reviews go positive, where someone will say, it sucked, but they took care of me really well. So that's a great way that you can show that you're responsive. But I'm going to piggyback with that. Issuing an apology is great, but call them. Don't send them an email. You're hiding behind something. Call them up. Apple's managers, when someone leaves a bad review or they answer their survey in a not positive manner, their managers, not just some call center person, but a store manager calls up the customer and has a conversation. It has improved sales. I think it's $1 million per store. It's huge. So that relationship will be amazing, and then referrals come out of that. So everybody that bitches at you, they're your best customer. They have potential to be your best customer, because all they want to do is be heard. If you show them that you actually care about them, they will love you forever, because nobody else cares. Especially, anyone who's married, you feel that a lot, right? So you want to have that relationship with your customer.
I think to piggyback on that too is, a lot of you guys are probably, or a lot of people in the CBD industry start out as small companies, and understanding that feedback, that criticism is an opportunity for improvement, for one. So listen and decide if the negative opportunity is an opportunity to change something. And as well, customers love to be a part of the solution. So if we give the example of it's too cold in here, we let someone know and they change the heat. Yes, if I didn't speak up, we would have all been miserable. And so I think that's another key part is to think of it as opportunity for improvement rather than criticism.
Yeah, I'll add something, sure. So I've learned that negative feedback is a tremendous gift. There's an opportunity to learn, but if a customer does provide negative feedback to you, they are really doing you a service, because we know statistically that a customer with a negative experience, these numbers are taken with a grain of salt, but are likely to tell as many as 20 people, or affect as many as 20 people. The impact of that, if they don't tell you, let me put it this way, if they don't tell you, they're going to tell somebody else. If they come to you first, they're giving you an opportunity. And in terms of your response to that feedback, the more accountable you can be in that response, so yes, call them up. The more accountable you can be, the more respected that response will be, the more weight that response will have. And again, I agree that those customers can become your greatest ambassadors. So it really is an opportunity.
I'm going to say one thing, which is from my experience at Amazon, when I would interview people for jobs, and it happened in my job interview, there was a type of case study question that would happen, and it was basically a trick question. And they would ask something in the essence of, say a customer orders a camera and it costs $500 and we accidentally send them $5. What do you do about that? And The answer was never anything that harmed the customer. It did not matter the dollar value. It didn't matter how inconvenient it was. And people often fell for that because they would start doing math to figure out what the cost was to the company. And that, I think, is just, in essence, what all of you has said, is just do whatever it takes, however inconvenient, however manual, however laborious that is. It is just the right thing to do, because ultimately that's a person. And I think that's really easy to forget when we're selling all these products over the internet primarily.
Think about this. Studies show, and I didn't do the studies, so I'm just repeating something I've heard, it takes 20 positive reviews to overcome 1 negative. So take this really seriously.
Yes, with my job in particular, it's hard for me to take my head out of the process that I already have set up to onboard my clients and to make sure that they're getting all the information that they need in order to make educated decisions for their business. Sometimes customers come to me and say something along the lines of like, this process doesn't work for me because of X. It's an issue that I had never even thought of. And so that helps me to innovate my way of thinking for the next go round, so that I can tailor make a process that's better for my consumer and also works for me as well. So I agree with everything that everyone is saying here. Let's see here. Ella, can you tell me what you think are the crucial pieces to helping to create a good customer experience, especially in this market?
In this market, more than any market, it's education. So I have a long career of educating in the spa professional market. In 2016, I was working with a CBD infused company and having written programs, education programs before, and implemented them, taught them in a very palatable way. We were with a large chain retailer, a massage chain. I won't tell you their name later. And I was doing a training, and in the middle, one of the ambassadors said, "You know, I have a question. I told my mom I was coming to this training, and she was really concerned about me bringing anything home because, like, what if my nephew eats it? Like, is he going to get high?" And I paused for a minute, and I thought, that's a fair question. But I'd be more curious to understand why your nephew's eating lotion than I would, like, are you getting high? And I realized then that here I had this 10 years history of teaching at that point, of teaching skincare in a what I thought was a palatable way. And what I learned at that training in particular is that I had to dial it back, because these people that I was training are the people who are touching the consumer. And so in this area, industry specifically, a huge part of the customer experience is the education they're receiving, because this is new. Doctors don't have this information. They've only had this information since recent history. The endocannabinoid system was only discovered in the late 80s and early 90s, and so it's new. And so education is almost, it's not the burden of the manufacturers or the companies, but it's definitely a part of it. And so I think that's key, one of my key issues on the customer experience. The other one would be, of course, the formulation and efficacy. That's where it begins, and then it continues on.
I'd like to add to the education piece. I mean, yes, I mean, CBD is new to pretty much everyone, and I think education is crucial, both directly to consumers, so if it's on your website, having kind of, you know, CBD 101, what's the difference between full spectrum and broad spectrum? And then if you're selling products in stores, ideally setting up an education program where you can go into a health food store and offer a training to their employees, obviously about your products, but also just to generally educate them about CBD, and to enhance the education, offer generously sized samples so the health food store employees can try it at home, maybe share it with friends, because I think that the more the store employee has tried your product and is excited about your product, that person can then like enthusiastically recommend your product compared to the 10 or 20 other CBD brands that the store may be carrying.
Let me jump in for a second. How many analyticals do we have here in the room? Raise your hands. Analyticals, engineer types, you want to know all the details? Okay, so for those of you that are analytical, understand that 75% of your audience is not like you. So if you'll be inclined to give them detail about the structural elements and all that, about what the product is, but most people really don't care. They want the result. They want to know that it's safe. They want to know that it's secure. They want to know that they're going to look 15 years younger instantly by putting on this lotion. You know, they don't care about anything else, but they want to, again, feel safe and secure. So don't over-educate to the point where they're in analytical mode, because then they're not going to buy. They buy how? Emotionally. They justify it with logic. So it's like, give them enough education to get them across the threshold, but with the education, add emotion to it so that it's not clinical. It's really easy to go clinical, and then you're going to lose them. You'll lose a lot of them. So be careful to make it more fun and storied, and the why behind it. Does that make sense? Okay.
I'm gonna add to that. When we talk about building a customer experience or designing one, what always strikes me, it's not just this industry, actually. Most of my experience is in other industries, working, applying the same tools that we apply now, but it always strikes me that there's a real emphasis on quantitative data, and an absence of qualitative data. A lot of owners of businesses, decision makers, they forget to ask the customer. And when I say ask the customer, I don't mean look at your Google reviews. That does not tell you everything. And maybe it tells you less and less these days. So, you know, it always strikes me that one thing that companies ought to do more of in general is engage with their customers in deeper understandings of their experiences, the questions that they have, not the questions that we assume they have, and make sure that we're actually responding to what they need and want, and not just what we imagine they need and want. And the problem with that, or the challenge, is that those processes are deep. They're often inconvenient in some ways and expensive. The deepest sort of methodology for that would be an ethnographic study. Nobody does those unless you have deep pockets and lots of time. There's space between an ethnographic study and a Google review, though. These are opposite ends of the spectrum. And if you're trying to design a customer experience, I just would suggest that you consider other ways that you can engage your customers and learn from them, you know, beyond the very superficial data you're going to get from reviews. If you have deeper analytics built into your sales process, that's great. The other thing that seems to be missing, though, is what do you do with that? Mm-hmm. It's great to have numbers, but again, we need the why. If you understand the why of your customer, then you know which pieces of data are worth building on and using and taking action on.
I want to piggyback on that for a second. So you've heard of a small company called Amazon, right? If you look at your competing products and then look at the questions that are listed underneath each product, that's what people want to know. And so if you handle those questions in your sales material, you've overcome most of the objections that are going to come up. Because for every one of those questions, there's probably 10 or 15 more people that had the same question that didn't post it because it was already posted. So it's a great resource to use. And it's, last I checked, free.
We all like free. Joshua, I want to jump back to the educational piece really quick. And with you and your background of training materials and such, with this ever-changing market, how does a company make sure that their training materials for their educational piece, for their staff and their consumer, leaves room for the growth that's coming in the market?
So, okay. The training materials. Every company's different. Each company needs to understand who they are as best they can and who they are speaking to. After that, I mean, and that, you know, I would recommend, I'm a believer in processes. So, you know, customer journey mapping is a process that I am fond of. If you want to understand how to communicate with your customers, this is similar to what I was saying, you need to probably speak with them. I don't know if there's a way around that. Now, employees, the same thing. I mean, people will come and do a job for you, but employee experience and is a whole, I mean, this is an area that is very overlooked but is starting to catch on. Employee experience, customer experience, two sides of the same coin. Are they not? What's the connection? There are some companies that are doing very well, famously companies like Zappos, for example, that has found ways to connect these two dots with great results. There's a customer service call that's sort of famous, infamous, that's 11 hours long, that Zappos did. And when I tell people that, and it's recorded, you can listen to it online. I have not listened to it. I've listened to it 15 minutes.
11 hours. My cell phone wouldn't last that long.
And so when I tell that to owners of businesses, they say, it's almost like I've told them that I'm going to destroy their business. Like they think that I want them to have 11-hour customer service interactions. I don't think that's a particularly good use of time. However, it's a reflection of the culture that Zappos designed. It wasn't accidental. That wasn't a rogue employee. That was a designed, intentional outcome. I mean, not a specific outcome, but that outcome was a result of a design about their customer experience and their employee experience. They empowered their employees to engage for that long. So it's an outlier, but the point is Zappos has built a culture. So educating your employees can translate to educating your end user, your customer, if the employee feels empowered and accountable to communicate and connect with your customer ultimately. But this takes time, and it's not a plug-in for your website, you know. So that's my thought on it.
Well said.
If we're going to talk about education, I'll just piggyback real quick. Make sure that your language is not master's degree language. Make sure that the actual copy that you write is actually tested for, I think it's like 5th or 6th grade level. Yeah. You don't want to go any higher than that because people don't understand the language anymore, especially as we've gotten older, we've gotten dumber as a society, unfortunately. But truly, if you go to any kind of copy classes, they will tell you to actually, I forget I think it's Hemingway.com, and it'll actually score your copy based on what reading level it is. But you want to be no higher than a 6th grade level or you'll lose people. So just bear that in mind.
I think as someone who's actually written education programs for employees in this market, the one thing that you have to be inclusive of is facts. We're in Zappos is a great example of a customer culture, but they're not asking technical questions like, can I still take this tincture even though I'm on high blood pressure medicine? So it's a little bit different. And so I think leading with the facts as well as this industry specifically is evolving so quickly. Where last year the biggest argument was full spectrum versus isolate, and now we have people warming to isolate and have broad spectrum has entered. So, I mean, the industry evolves. You have to just present the facts. This is what the endocannabinoid system is, even if it's at a 6th grade level,
Yep.
which is a great way to do things. This is what full spectrum is. This is what broad spectrum is. Facts. And then this is who we are as a company.
Yeah.
I think that's also key, is rolling with it. Another thing that I've seen work really well, especially when training employees, is a test out. So the test out helps you navigate the presentation to find out what wasn't absorbed and that what needs to be tweaked. And then if they're your customer, a survey or some kind of a feedback form. How did I do? How was I, as a teacher, how was the information presented to you so that you have that feedback to know what to tweak?
We did a question in the back.
Yeah.
Sure. What's your question?
You're up.
I completely agree when it comes to the customer service, as far as making your customer your priority. But how do you do that in a CBD industry whenever all eyes are on you without crossing the line of false claims? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I want to speak to this one. So not that everyone else couldn't speak to this, but we have a general counsel on staff, and I'll tell you that my personal experience with this has been one of overcoming severe frustration because what commonly is felt is a desire to obviously say that you think the product will help you in this way and this way, and in fact there is absolutely no level of medical claims that are okay. So I think my advice would be to reevaluate, what you're thinking of doing, be present in that decision, and realize that there simply is no other alternative. We use a lot of careful language around, my experience involves, feeling, for example, less worn down. I feel like I'm more able to work out harder the following day. By taking these products, I'm more able to have a successful fitness routine, right? And that gives an image to someone of what the product is accomplishing without saying something that I would never advise, which is this product reduces your post-workout pain. That's an illegal claim there, and I think it's really just a matter of patience, because I personally know at our company we felt frustrated seeing many other companies do exactly that. And we just have to trust that in the long run, we're pursuing ethical business in a long-term time frame, and sort of that karma will take its turn, if you will. Did you want to add something else?
So you speak more in a personal reference when you're referring to these?
It's a combination of personal reference, but also just being very careful about the language that we use. We have extensive training documents that are really clear on what you cannot say, and I think I would be very careful to mention that isn't a loophole. The personal experience is not a loophole to make claims. And I think that was often misunderstood for a long period of time, which is, well, if I'm saying that for me this reduces pain, that's okay, and that is not okay. So I think that the answer is yes, personal experience is better. Referencing others' experience is also good, but still just making sure that it never involves the words that we all know cannot be said around these products.
I think another thing too is don't be a hero. You don't have to claim that this one tincture helps arthritis and psoriasis and anxiety and you're going to sleep better, because that's just not the truth. But refer to other companies. One in particular is a nurse-staffed or a medical professional staffed hotline that's free. It's LEAF 411. It's 844-LEAF 411. And so referring to them to be able to answer those questions, because they're qualified and they're not from a brand. And so as a medical professional, they can do that for you. Another would be to partner with an organization like GoFire, who has an app of people who record their anecdotal experiences, and that could be part of it. So you don't have to do that like with other companies or with other industries. You don't have to have that happen. There's other resources.
So you're saying more of direct them to a certain maybe link or certain website that will help them more to do their own research?
To do their own research or to answer those specific questions, like epilepsy, How many this is a question that came up. Comes up often. How many milligrams do I need to take to sleep better? I'm not a doctor. I can tell you my opinion, but everybody's different. But I can refer you to LEAF 411, who is a cannabis-trained medical staff, and they can help you navigate that.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I want to amend one thing to that, which is to actually compliment you. I think that's a great idea. I would advise caution on one particular part of that, which is that it's one thing if they're speaking to someone, that might be different. If there is any connection between your website and another organization, and that organization has a claim on their website, you are liable. So that extends to Instagram likes. Like, let me give it a really, really explicit example. If you like a post on Instagram from your business account that says, here's the top things that CBD cures, and we've all seen that meme, that's the FTC coming after you for big bucks. And I think that we have to be really careful about those organizations, although they can provide a lot of assistance. If they're amalgamating anecdotal experiences and those anecdotal experiences contain claims, you're on the hook for that if you link to that site. So it just really, I love the idea of speaking with someone though, because I think that is a really potent one.
I can give you the number later.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But Skylar, this is a really, really important point. Make sure it's not overlooked. If you don't have an attorney on staff, then make sure you've retained a good, solid attorney that understands FDA and FTC and all the appropriate regulatory people's regulations, because if you go awry, they can nail you. And trust me, they can make Mother Teresa look like a gangster. So if they want you, they'll get you. So be as compliant as you possibly can be. Don't be afraid, because that's the last thing we want to have you do. But for heaven's sakes, avoid claims, no matter how enthusiastic you are. I mean, and trust me, I've lost millions of dollars because of this. By saying that something was virtually, blah, blah, and virtually is not a good word. Doesn't work. So we run everything through legal compliance to make sure that we're not doing anything that might even be a glimmer of a possibility of problems.
Great. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you for asking. So I'm just going to kind of open this up to any of you on this panel right now. I think it's relevant to all of your background. How does a company or employees in particular provide value to the customer or consumer via the product or service that they're offering?
I'll jump real quick. I think the best part about an employee is that they should love what they're doing so much that they're an evangelist, that they're coming from learn experience, they're enthusiastic. In fact, think about this. You've heard of a small company called Apple? Are they enthusiastic? So
I'm an Android girl.
we pray for you. And
Okay,
that's,
I'll take your picture and you'll see it better.
Nah, trust me, don't even go there. But here's the point. Apple people are we're nuts about our Apple products, and the Apple employees are the same way. They're all evangelists, and they come to work. They want to share and spread the word. So they will sell better than anybody else because you're buying into that enthusiasm and ultimately into that cult. So if your team can feel that way about what you're doing, then you win. If they don't care, if you're not treating them properly, if they're not enthusiastic, you're not going to be so successful. It comes down, or as successful, let's say it that way. So that will really help you a lot. I had an experience with a small airline, United, where they did some stupid shit. And I sent a letter, and I made a video, because I'm one of those kind of people. Yeah, I'm very shy. And literally within hours, they called me. And they were so cool about it. They tried to track me down. It wasn't just like one thing. They found me, because I live in Asia, so finding me is not always easy. I'm in different time zones and all this. They found me. They took amazing care of me, and they asked me also to take the video down, which I did. But social media works. But it was incredible. They were so cool and so nice that it was a good hour-long phone call. It wasn't 11 hours, but it was a good hour. And they were cool. And now we'll talk about United all day long about how great they were. And trust me, they need me to do that because after that one guy being yanked off the airplane, they've got a lot of stuff to overcome.
I mean, I think one way, different, that some companies have been able to, evangelize their employees is the company mission. I mean, without naming specific CBD companies, with some CBD companies, they were founded because, say, the founder had pain from endometriosis and she turned to CBD, or in another case, helping a dad who was suffering from nausea from cancer. I think, or someone who's supporting organic regenerative agriculture, that in this case, the employees, they're not coming into work just to make money, but they're helping people relieve pain, they're helping with the environment and soil quality, et cetera. And just, I think, connecting to a higher mission just lends itself to increased employee engagement, and then their own enthusiasm about the company, the products, and overall mission.
I know that when I go into a store and someone's enthusiastic to show me a new product, that I'm like, okay, let me listen to what you have to say. Especially if they relate to me in some form or fashion to get me to engage with them. I really feel like that creates a connection that makes me, A, remember that experience, and B, make me want to come back and learn more about the different products that they offer.
Yeah, if I could just add a couple of quick thoughts. One, first of all, nobody wants to be sold, period. Nobody wants to be sold. They want to be served. So serve, don't sell, first of all, from the employee side. The sale will come, when you serve. As far as employee enthusiasm and mission statements as well, this is sort of like a pet topic of mine, totally separate from this. It's just, if you notice, a lot of companies these days, they have mission statements, and every one of them, it seems to me, are making the world a better place.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. We make a light bulb that, changes colors and that saves people's lives somehow, or that makes the world a better place. We sell gummy worms. I'm sorry if any of you sell gummy worms. I didn't mean that. We sell, fill in the blank. It doesn't matter. Everyone has come up with these very lovely mission statements about how their organization is really deeply connected to that which matters in our world in these very essential ways. And these are nice ideas. If you want your employees to embrace that and live that, you have to do, it's got to be more than words. So culturally, in your organizations, you have to empower your people. You cannot give them scripts. You cannot tell them, hit this button and do it 100,000 times and expect them to speak sincerely to your customers, to represent your product sincerely to the customer with authenticity. You have to let your customers inhabit that space. And a lot of owners are not comfortable with that, because a lot of owners are, although often visionary and driven, those same qualities prevent them from allowing other people to really inhabit those spaces and to have that control. So it's tough. Everybody wants that employee, but again, it's, you will burn out your people if you tell them smile really big. This is called, there's an idea about surface acting and deep acting, authenticity. If you want your people to burn out fast, get them to surface act, basically pick up the phone and here's an example. On the airplane, getting off the airplane, when you walk down the aisle and you get off, and the person says thank you for flying, what was it, American? United. How many of you, we've all been there. It's like, is that a heartfelt, sincere, experience emotionally, or is that something you expect to happen getting off the plane? Those people, it's like, how long can you smile?
27 rows.
Yeah, 27 rows, and I feel bad for their faces.
Right.
So, we're talking about human beings here, people's emotions, and emotions dictate. There have been scientific studies that show emotions dictate purchase decisions. There's a lot of rationale that precedes a purchase decision, but ultimately when someone decides to buy car A or car B, it's how they feel, not it gets 37 miles to the gallon and the lights are this bright and the tires work like this. No, it's how they feel that ultimately is the deciding factor. So, very important.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for all of the input and the expertise that you shared with us today. We only have a few more minutes here, and I was going to see if anyone in the audience had any specific questions to ask the panelists. Yes, sir.
I'll stand up for the audience.
Oh my God.
Ken, you mentioned earlier that we are sometimes too analytical when we present, when we have somebody moving to us who wants to know about our product. What do you do otherwise? They want you to explain to them what it is, what you're doing, here's the product, how it works, whatever. If you don't do that, what do you do?
Okay, good question, Mark. Here's the thing. Do people really want the details, or do they want the results? They want the results. So let's talk about what it's going to do for them. Now, obviously, you want to be careful about claims, if we're talking about anything medical, right, or anything that would be anti-FDA type of thing. But people want that experience of what they're feeling. So, for example, you want to look better, right, which is why you're going to go and hang out with Ella, because she's going to go ahead and make you fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to talk later. So you're looking for that youthful experience, because that'll get you, it'll get you laid. So that's going to be really important. Let's just call it as it is. It's Saturday night. But that's the bottom line. You want to look better so you can have a better relationship with your spouse. So if you're single, you can find someone to be with, because you want to be loved. That's the ultimate. They don't really give a damn what's in the ingredients. They want to know, the result is that they're going to look better and feel better. Isn't that right? So come from that standpoint. When we direct the conversation, the results are the results that they want. Now, if it's something that's more of like a legal situation, then that detail you'll want to get specific to as to what relates to their situation. But I want to defer to what they're going to get from the product. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
A good thing. Okay.
All right, anyone else have any questions for our panelists? We've got a couple more minutes here.
I think to piggyback on that answer, analogies are really good. Because people they're not dumb, they do want to understand. And so if you can change it, take something really technical or analytical and put it in a palatable or relatable way, then that would be awesome. They understand it, they can see how it works, and they move forward. So I'll give the example of free radicals. Does anybody know what a free radical is? Or an antioxidant? What's an antioxidant? An antioxidant fights free radicals. Great, so what does that mean? I want you to think of free radical as a crazy ex-girlfriend. And so the way a free radical works is it comes into cells that pair up, the positive and the negative pair up. That's a healthy relationship. A free radical comes in and tries to knock the healthy cells off their axis. So an antioxidant works as a bouncer to keep crazy ex-girlfriend from getting into this relationship, as well as a therapist to, like, what's your problem? You need to be over there. You're not stable, literally. And so if you can see that, you may not really understand cells or microbiology or anything like that, but a lot of us have either been the crazy ex-girlfriend, not me, had the crazy ex-girlfriend, or know the crazy ex-girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. So you can see that working. So trying to find a way to put it in a palatable and absorbable way, I think, is key too. And with something like cannabis, CBD, cannabinoids, what it does is it works, there's a lot of technical terms you can use, terpenes, flavonoids, CB1, CB2, cannabidiol. There's a lot of terms that you can use in describing that, and you get like a disconnected look. But if you're able to say what it does is it tells your body, whoa girl, let's calm down, or come on girl, let's pick it up. It balances things. Halitosis or homeostasis. So not halitosis, that's totally different.
That's good.
But halitosis or homeostasis. So you can use both. You can have the duality of scientific terms where they feel elevated and included in this really exciting scientific speak, but we'll also be able to see it and understand it too.
I want to add one final thought. I think a few people today have mentioned this concept of connecting with people that are customers as human beings. And I just finished probably the best book I've ever read. It's called A New Earth. It's by Eckhart Tolle. And I feel like it's been out for years, but I finished it and it was hands down the most humbling, empowering experience I think maybe I've had in recent times. And it talks a lot about treating people as other people and respecting them, whatever they do, no matter how simple it may seem that their contribution is. It just gives a lot of perspective, I think, to someone's role in treating the customer well. It's not to say that me as the CEO or co-founder of a business is any better than my employees, and certainly not any better than the customer. And I think that attitude was really authentic. And if it's done in a place that doesn't involve the ego, then that's potentially a very empowering customer experience. Yeah, there it is right there. It's called A New Earth. Yeah.
It's a good book.
I wanted to add, I think in terms of education, people learn in different ways. Some of us are, visual learners. Some people like reading. And I think with CBD being very complex, I think in some cases visual diagrams explaining the endocannabinoid system, or the difference between broad spectrum and full spectrum, and potentially adding videos on your website could help, because I am an analytical person, so for me, give me as much data as possible. But for other people, right, they're thinking more emotionally. They want to know, does this product work? Is this safe for me? Is this safe for my child or my pet? And just kind of providing that information in maybe different formats so people can learn how they want to.
Can I add something? I want to give you just another little overview to this. And think about this. There's 3 parts of the customer journey. There's before they buy, so now they're prospects. There's when they're in the buying process on your website or in the store or even here in the exhibit hall. And then there's after they bought and they're an existing customer. And you want to look, you're going to treat them in different ways throughout that whole buying journey. After they buy, you're going to treat them differently, and you want them to buy again, you want them to do refer, and so on. Before they buy, you want to have them be engaged with you so that they will pull the trigger. And during the buying process, the last thing you want to do is make it difficult for them to buy, as so many websites, for example, do. They make it. It's like someone is part of the Department of Sales Prevention, for goodness sakes. So you want to make it as easy as you can, as friction-free as you can throughout each of those different touch points. Because if you don't, there's a challenge. And education is critical in so many different ways. Which is a really important part to our journey here. But I deal in a legal and tax side of things, protect people from lawsuits and save them money on taxes so they can defer it forever. There's a lot of education there. There's a lot of skepticism there. So we have to do all of that. And so we gamify everything. In fact, if you have the flyer, if you text the word save to a phone number on that, you'll be having interactive text back and forth that goes into our CRM. So now we can be in complete communication, get data on the buyer or the potential buyer, and communicate and serve them. So see how you can engage people along the way to learn more about who they are and what they do.
Thank you for that. And thank all of you for coming to see this amazing group of panelists discuss the customer experience in CBD markets.